Okay, now we're looking at the extra advanced features that we have with the button. Now, one thing that you can see is that if we select different ones, we select that, it shows you the actual button in there, and in there you can also delete the button. If we do that, it will ask you, do you want to delete button? Click cancel. Also, it gives you the link that you put in when you originally created the button, and you can change that and just hit save, and that will save new links wherever link you put in there. We've also got a thing here called button tip. Now if we look at the button tip, if I type something in here, so a great site for cats wearing hats, go there. Also expand it like that and then click save. Now what I've done is I've added a button tip to that button. So if I go back to the page and look at the page, if I hover over, then it will display the button tip. So if somebody goes there and they're not quite sure what the icon is, you can actually add more details into that icon. I'm going to leave that as it is. Moving buttons around is very similar to the standard simple editor. So if I click again and then move, then it will move around as it normally does. The one thing that doesn't happen here is a third click. So if I click and then click again, it will just go back, because when the button is selected, you get all the details available in the actual button. Now, what happens if I wanted to add a new button? So let's click on an empty slot. Now what we have here, we have a few different options. So if we do search, like we have done before, and let me just search for something simple. So I'll search for the word green, hit search. And as you can see, you've got your options again, and you can simply select one of those options. So I'm going to select that there. And there you go. So you've created an icon. It's a blank icon, so we've got just a link, a link that we can put in there. We can add a button tip. We've also got a thing here, which is advanced options for a button. So it's extra advanced buttons. I'm just going to show you briefly this, but this will be looked at in a later tutorial. So got much greater options on the actual buttons. All of these things will be looked at later on, as they do add a lot of extra functionality to each button, but I'm going to ignore that for now. So there you go. So I've put that button on there. Now you can also choose a button, choose a widget. There's 3 different types of widget at the moment, hopefully more later. So if I had a Google search bar, as you can see, a search bar's appeared. Now if I put down in the bottom left hand corner, I can change the width of the search bar. There we go. You can either open it in new tab or open in self. So when somebody goes to the page, now if I go back to the page, you can see here, and I want to search for something on Google, so let's search out for cats. You see it opens in a new page and you've got pictures of cats. So new tab, pictures of cats. Now if I go back to my editor, change that to self, go back, search for cats again, it'll open it within the same tab. So it gives you the option to keep that original tab open. A couple of other widgets. So if I look here, time, if I add time, again something that will expand hopefully in a later edits versions of this site, but as you can see now we have a clock, and that clock will tell the time based based on the time of GMT time. You've got 3 different types of clocks at the moment, so that's one basic one. There's one with a white background, and there's kind of an ornate one just to kind of give an idea of an alternative. We've also got time zone here, so say for instance you're in Spain, you could have that +1 hour to Greenwich Mean Time. What else have we got? We've also got one more widget, which is other board. Now this relates to the profile button. Now when we hit other board, you'll immediately get a button down, and you'll have the ability to change the board name and just update. So at the moment the other board that we've connected to is the Sensors on page, and it's and that's what the current background profile image is for that. But say for instance there's a Sensors on page for BBC Live Radio. So if I put BBC Live is it BBC Live Radio or BBC Radio Live? I think it BBC Radio Live. And hit update. There you go. So it's automatically taken what you've got here in your profile of that page and put it onto your board. So now that's a direct link to the Sense On page, BBC Live Radio. So if I put that up there, go back there, and whatever the person's actually written within there, so as you can see it's already got an info set up, so it allows you to kind of share information, get other stuff from other pages on Sense On, and also if they change that actual background, it will change automatically on your page as well. So do we have anything else? Now we also have choose button from a button library. Now I've created a few pages where there's different button libraries using an open source selection of icons. So if I pick one just out of this, it'll open up a selection of buttons and you can choose any one of these. So let's just choose the CD. So there's the CD, and we can again add or edit that. We also have this here, which is a button icon here, and this gives you a few extra options as well. You've got the ability to upload, which was also available on the original simple option of being able to add a button. So if I click on there, you can just add icons from wherever you decide to make your own icon or edit your own icon. So let's just use the one just as an example that we originally used. So there you go. So I've added it again. So we delete it. Alright, it's gone. You can take from the same library by that button, but you can also take from another Sense On page that you know the name of. So for example, on the BBC Live Radio one, so if I go BBC Radio Live, I should say, like so, and I hit take, as you can see we've got the page, the BBC Live Radio page has popped up. We've got all their buttons available, and say for instance I only listen to Radio 2, so I hit Radio 2, then I get the Radio 2 button, and then that's mine. I can edit that, I can change the link, I can do whatever I like with that. But there's also a thing called borrow. Now what that is it's exactly the same as taking a button from another site, but instead of taking it, you're simply referencing it. So if I go for BBC Live Radio, click on there, and now that's set to BBC Live Radio. But as you can see in the button tips, it shows that it says borrowed from BBC Live Radio. And what this means is that you can't edit it. You can't change those elements. You can't add your own button tips, and it locks that stage of things. Now, why would you want to do that, you might ask? Well, for example, what it also means is that if they update it, it also updates the actual background image. So if you were taking like a live feed of somebody and they changed their background image, or they changed the link to the latest version, it would automatically do that. So you could have it's a way of having a live link to somebody else's kind of page. So you can have like an example being if somebody had a podcast, you could have a link to their podcast, and as they update it, you would automatically get the latest link on it. So there are different ways of looking at it, but it might well be something that works out to be powerful. Anything else with regarding the buttons? I think that's about it with the buttons. There are certain elements which are even more advanced regarding the buttons, as I mentioned before. There's that, but I've also there's regarding hovering over. When you upload your own buttons, you can actually create it so you have a active and hover button, so it actually highlights when you go over it. But that will be looked at in a later tutorial. Thank you.